I call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, April 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Cronin.
Present.
Alderperson Helmke.
Present.
Alderperson Hoekst.
Present.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Kimmett. Alderperson Posey.
Here.
Alderperson Touche. And Alderperson Tucker Long.
Here.
All right, we got a full house, so we can proceed. Next, we'll move on to item 4, which is public comments. Do any members of the public wish to speak? Now would be the time to do so. All right, I'm not seeing anyone approaching the microphone, so we'll move on to item 5, which is approval of the minutes from the March 25th, 2024 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, or motions to approve?
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Kemp, is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. Last chance for corrections. Seeing no hands, all those in favor of approving the minutes for the March 25th, 2024 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. We will move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. First up, we have a recognition of alderpersons Kate Cronin, Chad Kemp, and Evan Touche. I'm going to do it in the order that the plaques have been presented. Is this thing?
It might have been on already. Mr. Mayor.
It was on. All right, well, okay. I will do this sitting then. I will do. It doesn't have a lot of controls, you know. It's like
It does not, Mr. Mayor.
it's on and off.
And then it's got like no battery, so I am sorry.
It's
fine.
it's all right. Anyways, first up, I would like to thank Alder Evan Touche for all of his time on the city council. We were alders together for a few years, and I just really appreciate your perspective. I just really appreciate your perspective and all the work you did on Public Works. So thank you for your service, and I hope you enjoy your free Mondays. Next up, we have Alder Kate Cronin. I just want to thank you for your service. We were both elected on the same ballot way back in 2018. It's been 6 years. Jeez, it feels just like a couple months ago. Anyways, I just really want to thank you for all your service, for giving up your Mondays, and for your insight and for your advocacy for the people of Verona. Thank you so much, and again, I congratulate you on your free Mondays. And finally, I'd like to thank Alder Chad Kemp for all his work on the Finance Committee and the Personnel Committee, especially the Personnel Committee. It's definitely a thankless committee, does really important, critical work that sometimes we can't even talk about because of legal advice. But I feel like that was a perfect job for a lawyer. So again, thank you so much for all your work, Alder Kemp. And well, you're going on to the county board, so I'm not going to congratulate you on free time. So, but maybe you'll have meetings on a different day. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to my second item, which is the appointments to the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. Last council meeting, we created the task force. And so these are the first 5 appointments, which are Alder Christine Posey, Alder Beth Tucker Long, Plan Commission member Mike Hankard, Verona residents Lauren Cohen, and Verona residents John Vogt. These are the first 5. I have 2 more people in mind. The names will get to you over the next few meetings. One might not take place until August, but I do plan on eventually appointing 7 people. So unless there's any questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the nominations. Alder Kimmett.
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Kimmon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Humke. Last chance for comments. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the appointments to the Comprehensive Plan Task Force as listed on the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And they are approved. We'll move on to item 7, which is announcements. Any announcements from the council? Seeing no announcements, we move on to item 8, the administrator's report. Mr. Aulick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to defer right away to City Clerk Licht for just a quick report on the election.
So last Tuesday, we had the spring election and presidential preference vote. It was our first election with the 4 polling places, and overall, I think it went really well. I didn't receive many complaints outside of the traffic on Northern Lights and PD when all the snow came down and Epic was let out all at the same time. So I think that was the biggest complaint that we received. Turnout was 32% of registered voters, and of that, roughly a third of those voters voted absentee. So if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Clerk Licht? Alder Posey.
Were there any issues with people finding their new locations, or did people generally know where they were heading?
We had a couple people that went to the wrong polling place, but I think overall, the majority of people knew where they were heading.
That's terrific to hear. Thank you. And thanks to your team for all their work. I know I thank the people at my polling location, but thank you.
Any other questions for Clerk Licht? All right, Mr. Aulick.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. First thing is we are looking at applying for the CARES grant, which is a type of mental health and other types of human services support for the community. It will likely come up at the next city council meeting as far as authorizing the city to apply for that. So just be aware that that's out there, and we're looking very hard at it. And I've started the application materials actually today. We had 3 what we consider to be qualified public works director candidates come through the portal. So be aware that's going to be on the horizon here. The closing date is at the end of the month. I think it's April 28th, and that's ongoing. We also had a really good applicant pool for the street superintendent position that we have currently available, and those interviews are going to be occurring here, if not this week. Actually, they are going to be occurring this week and early next week, so just be aware of that. Just one last add on to what Mayor Diaz had said. It really does take a special person to serve in local government. You really have to care about your community, to put yourself out there and run for office. And I commend all of you, but for the outgoing alders, you know, these are oftentimes thankless jobs. I was a school board member and also a county board member, and I know it's very personally rewarding, and the community needs good people, and you've all served commendably in your roles, but I just want to thank you very much for your service to the city of Verona. You've done well. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Aulick? Seeing no hands, we will move on to item 9, which is the engineer's report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. The County Highway PD project from Northern Lights to Country View Road has restarted construction, so it's the eastbound lanes that are now being constructed, and the culvert for the dry tributary is expected to be removed and replaced starting later this month. Construction's expected to continue through late 2024 on this project, and I just want folks to expect changing traffic patterns during construction as the project progresses. I also wanted to note that we received the Ardent Glen Phase 3 plans, and those are under review. So with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fisher? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to item 10, which is committee reports. First up, we have 10A, Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd first like to make a motion for the payment of the bills in the amount of $521,341.26.
Motion by Alder Kemp, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Humke. Alder Kemp.
Yes, first we had a payment of $87,345 to Kaiser Automotive for police squads, a payment of $158,721 to AECom for engineering services, and a payment of $128,537 for the Art House 360 rehabilitation and remediation.
Thank you for the explanation. Any questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Kemp.
Yes, next I'd like to make a motion recommending approval of resolution number R-24-010, creating a recruitment and retention bonus for the police officers of the Verona Police Department in 2024.
Motion by Alder Kemp, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Humke. Alder Kemp.
Yes, just to give you a quick summary, and I'll let the chief kind of elaborate. The idea here is to try and help retain some of our current officers and also eventually help with recruitment of officers given the current situation in trying to get good police officers, but I will let him continue. Chief, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. The resolution is before you as a result of the Verona Police Department having 4 vacancies in patrol and 1 supervisory vacancy, a sergeant, in 2024. The recruitment bonus and sick time for lateral transfers is intended to attract qualified applicants who have already completed the police academy and have years of experience, both a benefit to the city of Verona and to the police department, not having to spend those additional monies on training. The extra incentive is necessary as the applicant pool for qualified law enforcement officers has become smaller, and all law enforcement in Dane County and throughout the region here has become more competitive in an attempt to attract the best candidates out of the shrinking applicant pool. The retention bonus is necessary as our current staff, who are highly valued, feel the effect of the vacancies in terms of shouldering extra work, some forced overtime, and fears of not being able to take time off. Additionally, our staff sees the incentives being offered by other communities, our neighboring communities, and I know some of our staff has been actively recruited by some larger neighboring communities. We want to encourage our officers to stay with us here in the city of Verona by offering a bonus for anyone who stays throughout 2024 and to bridge the gap between now and 2025 when negotiations will begin for a successor agreement to their labor contract. If the resolutions pass tonight, there will be no additional cost to the city as both the recruitment and retention bonuses will be funded through the current 2024 police budget, unexpended salaries caused by the current vacancies. So that's the request or the reason for the resolutions in front of you tonight.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments on the motion before the body? Alder Cronin.
I would just like to say that I am very much in support of this resolution, but I would also encourage finance and personnel to look at retention citywide, because I know there are some other disparities, not to take anything away from this resolution, but I think it should be a priority to keep all of our great employees here in the city of Verona.
Other questions or comments? I guess I'll just call on myself real quick. I agree with what Alder Cronin said. I think, recruitment and retention across the city is really critical, and I think that finance and personnel are going to have to look at that in the future, and in the future 2025 budget as well. I'm in favor of this, and I think it makes sense, especially since we like to be, I guess, pragmatic about it. I mean, there's one way you can always recruit more people is by lowering your standards, but I don't think we want to do that for our police department. So I think this is a good way to kind of let officers know that they're appreciated and that their work for the community is valuable, and while also maintaining a high standard. So I think this is a good idea. Other questions or comments? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-24-010, creating a recruitment and retention bonus for police officers of the Verona Police Department in 2024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from finance?
Nothing further.
Excellent. We'll move on to 10B, which is Personnel Committee. Alder Kemp.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion recommending approval of resolution number R-24-011, sick leave transfer credit for sworn police department lateral transfer hires of the Verona Police Department.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Second by Alder Host. Alder Kemp.
Yes, similarly, this has to do with retention and more, well, actually, lateral transfer hires for the department, and I can again let the chief speak to that.
Yeah, it's more for recruitment, again, going after the lateral transfers who are folks who have already been through the police academy. They already have some years of experience. Some of them have advanced training. Trying to recruit those folks to come to the city of Verona. And one of the hurdles is leaving sick time behind from their formal agency. I mean, some of them have accumulated, quite the sick bank, and they don't get to bring any of that with them, per se. And so this proposal is to afford 1 week of sick time if they have under 5 years of experience, and 2 weeks of sick time if they have 5 years or more of experience, again, just to incentivize, provide an incentive for them, we'll get through that, provide an incentive for them to come to the city of Verona, and if they happen to get sick or have an injury, that they have something they can fall back on.
Thank you. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor of resolution number R-24-011, sick leave transfer credit for sworn police department lateral transfer hires of the Verona Police Department, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from personnel?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. We move on to 10C, which is Plan Commission. Alder Posey.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 24-1040, amending Title 13 relating to specific residential standards.
Motion by Alder Posey. Is there a second? Second by Alder Kemp. Alder Posey.
So we did discuss this at the March 11th, 2024 Common Council meeting. At that time, the discussion was continued until a time where our staff, Mr. Severson, could attend and address the council's questions. Staff are here today to talk about that. I will read the rest so it's on the record. The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on March 4th, 2024, received no public comments relating to specific residential standards for garages. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the zoning text amendments for Section 13-1-122, specific residential standards. The proposed zoning text amendments clarify that garages for single-family residences cannot protrude from the front of the house, even if the door is not oriented to the front property line. This would prohibit side-loading garages located in front of the house rather than behind the front living area of the home. The ordinance further limits the visual dominance of garages as viewed from the street by limiting the total frontage of garages to no more than 50%. If the council is supporting of the recommended amendments, staff recommends delaying the effective date of the ordinance to allow builders and property owners advance notice, and that would allow us time to submit plans that have already been developed, thereby reducing the burden placed on projects and purchase agreements already in motion. And we do have the effective date listed as in the packet.
Anything to add, Mr. Severson?
Yes, I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so if you can get that up on the screen.
Fingers crossed. Yay.
Okay, great. And are you able to see that at your, okay, great. So I'll just go over some of the background and the existing regulations. So you can see on the screen, when the residential use standards were last updated as part of the overall rewrite in 2021. The use standards were added that specified where the garage could be. And these two examples are actually part of the code. One shows an attached side-loading garage on the side, but behind the living space. So this would be the street out here, front door. So this would, in this example, it would come around to the side and enter at the rear of the house. The other acceptable option would be, it can be front-loading, so access directly off of the street. However, if that's the case, it was regulated, so it would have to be set back 1 foot from the living area of the house. Because the code wasn't completely explicit on how this was to occur, some builders took that to mean that you could have a side-loaded garage if it was on the front of the property as well. So this is an example of something that was built where you have a side-loading garage, but it's on the front of the property. And I don't think that was the intent, albeit I wasn't here at the time, but just in discussions with staff that were here, I think the intent were, and traditionally when these type of regulations are put in zoning ordinances, is to limit the garage from being in the front of the property. But because this wasn't explicitly stated in the ordinance that you could have a side-loading garage, this is how some of the builders proposed and constructed some houses. This is an example of something that was built after the ordinance. These are some additional examples of houses that were built, I don't know the exact dates, but they were built well before these regulations took effect. This is an example of a garage that projects out past in front of the house, although it's a front-loading garage, not a side-loading garage. And then the example here at the bottom shows where the garage, it's actually a 3-car garage, which is projecting out in front of the living area of the house. So those are just some examples. And understanding kind of, or at least my thoughts on the reason for the regulations and how it was being interpreted in the field, and actually how construction was taking place. Staff brought this up at the Plan Commission level when the Plan Commission was reviewing other text amendments. And just to get an understanding of what the intent was and kind of what the city wanted to do with these regulations. And so, as it was presented, Plan Commission discussed it, and it was the general feeling that the two options that were presented in the code were the preference of the Plan Commission. So as a result, at the next meeting, staff had drafted some language to kind of further define and put some better definition and guardrails on garage regulations. Staff also presented a recommendation to limit the overall frontage of a garage to no more than 50%. And this is just something that, based upon my experience, is typically found in zoning regulations that are trying to get at limiting the dominance of a garage as viewed from the street. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on March 4th, and these recommendations were proposed to be adopted. I will note that the 50% frontage regulation could be difficult on lots that are less than 60 feet wide. You obviously need about roughly 18 to 20 feet of width for a garage, and then if you're going to add, additional 50% of that, that gets you at 40 feet. You have 10-foot setback, so anything really under than 60 feet would be difficult. That being said, I was not able to find any single-family lots that haven't already been developed, so I don't know if this will be an issue. Also because there is a section in the zoning ordinance that gives an exemption for existing non-conforming garages. Even if it's non-conforming and you can still maintain it, you can still replace it if it's damaged. So anyone who has an existing non-conforming garage, whether it's the existing regulations or the proposed regulations, they can still rebuild that garage. So I just want to point that out. These are the actual regulations that were recommended by the Plan Commission. And just, again, just want to make sure it's clear, because this is, I would say, a unique part of Verona's zoning ordinance, giving an exemption to existing non-conforming garages. Typically, if it's non-conforming structure and it's damaged by more than 50%, it cannot be replaced. But in Verona's ordinance, even if a garage is 100% destroyed, it can be rebuilt. And if anyone has any questions, I can answer them.
Alder Helmke.
Okay, so I was one of the people that was really confused last time. So for people who like three-car garages, like in the example that you shown,
Yes.
would that be I'm not saying I like or dislike three-car garages. I'm just curious, is that not doable then because they take up more than 50% of,
That would be difficult, yes.
okay.
You would have to orient it would have to be like a access from the rear. If you want a three-car garage and it's accessed from the front, you would need about 80 feet of frontage, which actually is pretty common for a lot of the lots. Most of the lots that I looked at that were recently approved for Whispering Coves, Kettle Creek North, those are about 100 feet wide. So those would have, for those examples, those lots would have no problem.
Okay, I guess my question is more, are we limiting projects or housing that would happen but now it cannot happen? So the answer sounds like no, if the houses that typically have three-car garages are large enough to sustain the three-car garage based on this rule.
So it is possible that the creation of these regulations would make it, especially the 50% rule. I think that is potentially adding a barrier to constructing housing, especially if you want like a 3 or even 4-car garage. It would make that more difficult.
Do you know how common three-car garages are now? I guess I'm just not, I'm trying to think of all the angles.
I would say they're more common in this area than I'm typically used to. 2-car garages would be pretty standard in my experience, but as part of this, I wanted to do some research and drive around the neighborhoods, especially the ones that were actively doing construction, and I did see a fair number of 3-car garages.
So are you in support of this? Like,
I would say if the council's concern is to not limit someone from building a 3-car garage, I think the proposed language in item C would make it more difficult to do. So if that is concern of you and the rest of the council members, then I would suggest not having that as part of the ordinance.
I don't know either way. I'm curious if that was part of on the planning commission, was there that thought out when thinking about, because I guess I just don't know if that was a part of the process of wanting to limit, like, I think I understand conceptually why, but was that kind of part of the process of limiting 3-car garages as well, potentially?
Okay, I'm going to call in order. So Alder Hoax, then Alder Posey, then. Oh, is there a question? Okay, Alder Posey then.
Hopefully I can add some information with this, because we did have 2 meetings around this, because it was definitely something that took us a while to all understand kind of the challenges. I think a big piece of it, and with the 50%, no, to answer that really quick question, no, the idea was not to limit 3-car garages. The idea is that if you are driving down a road and the lot sizes get smaller and smaller, you could potentially end up with essentially a drive of nothing but garages. if you are saying it is less than 50% and you, like, people are just able to build, if they want a 4-car garage, well, then they can take up their entire lower level. And if you get a developer who, somehow figures out a way to do it, they could potentially have a driveway or a whole street full of garages. That's essentially what it comes down to. Now, our lot sizes have been big enough to prevent that. So when we have a neighborhood that has lots of 3-car garages, we don't feel that because there's a lot of landscaping and there's a lot of land. But as those lot sizes shrink in, the potential is there that you could have garage on top of garage on top of garage. And you see this more if you're looking at developments in like California and New Jersey and Virginia and all those areas where the lot sizes are a lot tighter. And by not having it be a rear accessed garage at that point, you end up with that at the front of the street. Because if you just get a developer who just slaps them in there, and luckily we haven't had that issue. Correct me if my recollection is incorrect.
No, that's accurate.
That's super helpful, thank you.
Alder Hoxt.
Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, I guess my first thought is, I guess two different things, right? So that offset, right? So that the house, or the houses you showed, none of those conformed, right?
Correct. I do have some examples of homes that were recently constructed that would conform to both of the requirements. Let's see, I'm just going back. None of those examples in those two slides conform.
Okay, and then, I guess I'm trying to think of my neighborhood. There's certainly a predominance of 3-car garages, but there's a few that have turned, like that have it forward facing, and I guess I never saw a problem with that. Now, if every single house on that block had that might be an issue, but so I guess I'm not sure how I feel about limiting. It just seems a very strange thing to limit, to have the garage be in the back, which I don't know how that would ever work in a traditional neighborhood. Like if you have the back alley, that's a whole nother story, but I guess I'm not a huge fan of limiting, getting rid of that option to turn, because you might have people that they really want a certain square footage, they want whatever, and they can get it done by doing that, and I don't think it presents a problem. And the offset, I think, what's the idea behind having the offset?
Just so the garage doesn't project out in front of the house.
Okay, because that's another thing, I guess, I can't think of a house where that is the case, right? These look like normal houses to me.
Gotcha.
I guess I'm not really, I have to think through it more, but I'm not really a fan of either of these things, I guess. Thank you.
I got Alder Touche, Alder Kimmett, and then Alder Tucker Long.
I feel like I jumped the line, but thank you. I tend to agree with Alder Host here. I listened to Alder Posey about the entire block full of these, and I'm just thinking, what's the harm, right? It's something aesthetic. Is it a safety issue? Is it, we do no-mow maze. We do things that may not be visually appealing to some people, yet we're going to tell someone they can't build a house with a big garage, taking over 50% of the front of their house. It feels like a little overstepping, especially since there's tons of examples of it around the city. As someone that has some friends that are realtors, 3-car garages are highly desirable. And because there's enough examples around here, I can see physically, right, someone buys a narrow lot, I don't know that I'd want a house at 70% garage, but that's my personal preference, not someone else's. And if someone wants that and feels comfortable and enjoys that house, and it could be a wonderful home for them, that's great, that's fine. It's not for me to judge. So I'm not inclined to support this. Thank you.
Alder Kimmett, Alder Tucker Long, and then myself.
So I agree with Hoxt and Touche. I think it's too limiting. It really could probably have some unintended consequences down the road. There are narrow lots that will be coming available. Essentially, I'm worried what we're saying is, well, you have to have a big house if you want to have a big garage. And especially as multifamily living becomes more of a thing and grandparents are moving in, this is Wisconsin. People need to park in a garage. If you need to have a 4-car garage because you've got your grandparents living with you, we shouldn't say, well, then you also have to have a 5,000 square foot house. Like, I just don't see the point of this. I get the aesthetic appeal of a neighborhood, but we already get that input when the people come with their development ideas. We can give the feedback that, hey, we would like your development to look aesthetically pleasing. But at the end of the day, if people buy it, then they have homes. We want homes. So why are we going to do more to limit the options for homes in Verona? I'm not voting for it.
Alder Tucker Long and then myself.
So another thing I feel that this restricts is it restricts creativity to not cut down existing trees and things when creating a property, because you can't curve the driveway around trees if you want to put the garage to the side. I know one of our neighbors did that, and so their garage comes out the side towards the front of the street to avoid taking out a tree on the other side of the yard. And so, like, I just feel like it's asking for more pavement to be put in through people's yards to get the driveways around to the back if we're asking for this. And so, are we at the point where we can make motions, or are they just asking for feedback at this point?
This is, I think the intent is a decision will be made, yes or no.
Okay.
So, and of course, if people don't want to do it, we don't have to make a motion at all.
Can we make a motion about the wording?
If you want to make an alternate motion to do it in a different way, you could do that.
Okay. I also agree with everything else that has already been said. So in light of that, I would make a motion that we update section 13-1-122, subsection G, subsection 1, to only contain item A and eliminate B and C as written in the packet.
I don't think, just for a point of order, since C doesn't currently exist, we wouldn't need to eliminate it, but we could eliminate B, though.
Okay,
if you wanted
eliminate
to.
B and not add C.
I think that would need to go back to a public hearing.
Okay, because it's a different thing than was intended. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what we could do, since the motion hasn't been seconded yet, is the body could vote to refer it back to Plan Commission with instructions from the council that the council wants to look at eliminating Part B, and then just see
Okay.
what happens.
So, since it hasn't been seconded, I can just update my motion?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to update my motion to be, to send this back to the Plan Commission for review with the recommendation? Okay,
Yeah.
with the recommendation that section 13-1-122, subsection G, subsection 1, be updated to only include subsection A.
Motion by Alder Tucker Long, is there a second? Second by Alder Kemp. Motion before the body. I'll just call it myself real quick. Since no, it's good. Since I was on the stack. Yeah, no, I was on the Plan Commission and when this came through, and I think, hearing now, I mean, my biggest concern is that it might prevent development coming through on narrow lots, just because, we need more housing of all types in Verona, including single family. I live in a single family home. I think it's nice. It's worked out really well for us. And the idea that we might make a kind of a project impossible to put single family homes on, and I don't like that. And so now I have a bunch of doubts, and now I think maybe we shouldn't do this. So I really appreciate the discussion. Alder Hoeks, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, was this a change that was, like, where did it come from? Or who, was it requested from a resident, or was it?
My understanding is that some builders had contacted Mr. Sievertson, and so he brought it to the Plan Commission for kind of clarification. And so it came out of the Plan Commission like this, and I guess it can go back for further discussion.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Alder Kemp.
Maybe Mr. Severson can answer this.
Sure.
Were they asking for clarification? Well, I guess this is part of the concern that people have is, as you get these lots that are smaller, were they asking for clarification because they have a specific idea that they want to implement? Do you have any idea why they were asking?
It was more that the homes that were being built in the code as it's written right now was a little unclear. So that was the main thing, asking the Plan Commission for clarification on the intent of the code.
Okay. I think I want to be clear. If the idea was that they wanted to find out why the code was written the way it was, and then we were about to change it to try and fit a specific project or a series of homes that they're trying to build that may not be aesthetically pleasing, I want us to be very cautious about that too when we're going back and rewriting this. All right? Thank you.
Alder Posey.
Thank you. And I don't know that you have, there was one set of photos that we got to see as part of Plan Commission that had where the sight lines, because of the setback, you could really tell that 25 is not all that far back. And so you had garages that could potentially limit sight lines to the sidewalk. And I know that that was one particular one that we all had a lot of feedback on, and that met the code, but had some concerns with it. I don't know if we have, that would be something I'd want to make sure we include in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't have that graphic handy,
Okay.
but essentially, I think it was showing essentially this structure right here. So, and this was, Alder Kemp, to your question, the type of homes that were coming in requesting clarification on the code were asking if they could do basically the design shown in this example right here.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of referring back to the Plan Commission this topic, including the recommendation that Section 13-1-122, specific residential standards, paren G, single-family detached, be considered with the removal, with the recommendation of the removal of Section B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that passes, and we'll go back to Plan Commission.
Just to clarify quickly, and also not add C, correct?
I think that was, yeah,
Is
clearly
that,
intent.
I just want to make
so-
sure that's clear.
Well, I mean, it could come back out of Plan Commission with C again, and then the council could vote on it again, but I feel like it wouldn't pass, so. Alder Posey.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 24-1051, amending Title 13 relating to landscaping standards.
Motion by Alder Posey, is there a second? Second by Alder Kemp. Alder Posey.
Plan Commission held the required public hearing on April 3rd, 2024, and received no public comments related to landscaping standards. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to recommend the Common Council approve the zoning text amendment for Section 13-1-153 landscaping standards. The proposed zoning text amendment further clarifies a recent zoning text amendment that removed ambiguous language related to native tree species. The amendment provides consistent language for grass and ground cover landscaping as well.
And just to clarify, yeah, this is making sure that our ordinances all match, because we got the first one, and there was another thing that Mr. Severson or Ms. Holt found? Someone in the
Ms. Holt,
planning, Ms. Holt. I want to give credit to the appropriate person, but Ms. Holt found it, and so we're going back to fix it. And I think this is a really good thing. I've worked in the software industry, and it's normal to make changes and then tweak them. And I think sometimes people in municipal government get afraid to make any changes, or you have to look at everything holistically. But I think we should be flexible and nimble enough. We can make changes and then come back and kind of iterate on what we've done. So I just want to say thank you to staff for following up. But yeah, motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of ordinance number 24-1051, amending Title 13 relating to landscaping standards, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Plan Commission?
Nothing further.
Move on to item 11, adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Touche, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we're adjourned at 7:46 PM. Thank you, everyone.